Hey everyone, Carl here with Littleroot Lessons, and I am joined by Ro and Poppy this week. Carter couldn't make it this week because time conflicts and things like that. He works a real early job, so he needed to be in bed. So this is like going to be a late night tier list video, I guess is the best way to describe this.
Yeah, late is definitely. We aren't. Just for timing's sake, we're doing this. It is almost 10 p.m. Eastern, also known as real time.
I don't know about that
And
one, Captain.
no, Captain's on. Captain Unova, he's on Game Corner. Wrong guy.
Wrong guy.
Wrong
Um,
guest.
but yeah, we haven't had. Have we had Poppy on the podcast before? I think one time
Um,
maybe.
yeah, it was on the one of your best of three, the Goodbye
Yeah, we did
Galler.
He was on
we
a
had
Goodbye
Poppy
Galler.
on Goodbye Galler Gauntlet. I know we've showcased a lot of Poppy's stuff on laddering and things like that. We talk about him a lot. You do a lot of fun stuff for the community. Go ahead and introduce yourself for those that may not know who you are.
PapiCantan. Been with Littleroot Lessons, or been in their server for the last 2 years. It's kind of my introduction into things that in Pokesports podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Just been playing like mad the last 2 years. I was in a car accident, so all I did was play Pokemon. Um, so a lot of the things I do for the community is kind of me just paying it forward.
Yeah.
Since in my lowest, I had a lot of people in the community just kind of reach out to me and just be good, genuine people. So it's just me like, hey, I'll sponsor a couple tours here and there, and maybe that's me showing love back as much as I was shown love when I
Yeah.
kind of needed it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, other than that, I mean, I played Pokemon casually my whole life, and last 2 years I've been playing more competitively, going to regionals. That's about it, really. I mean, yeah, that's all I got.
I'm trying to remember. Were you judge staff for one of the events this past year?
Yes, I am a
Caucus.
Professor Basic, and I judged the caucus, New Jersey, and I had the pleasure of being on a stream most of the day, so I got to watch a lot of really cool matches. Uh, Joe UX9, Paul Chua, Wolf Click, and it was incredible. It was
I
a
was about
great
to say that's
experience.
probably an amazing experience.
Yeah, it's great. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
was able to take some pictures of Poppy streaming,
yeah,
on stream, because I was there as competing and as our photographer. So if you follow us on
yeah.
Twitter, follow me on Twitter, make my life easier. Um, you definitely saw him. I also got to watch Joe UX9 live in person that event, and I'm happy you had fun, Poppy, because I did not.
Oh man, you did well. I remember you doing pretty
I
well. So
I did very well. It was after playing against Poppy and actually William the Shuai. I hope I said that right. Who was on the Double Darms with me. He also those were my two losses. So I got to know how when it came for that draft, I knew how well Will was as a player. Again, firsthand, 2-0ing me. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, no,
Mhm.
just to say, like with Poppy, he is like the Robin Hood of the Pokemon community. Not the stealing part, but like the giving back. Um, there isn't a week I see a tournament that isn't like sponsored by him or partnered by him in some way,
Mhm.
shape, or form. I know right now he's doing some work sponsoring a couple tournaments. I believe it's with Nino
yeah. Nino
Pokebros.
Poke Bros.
Mhm.
And it's like to help people prep for Orlando series. Oh, is it Orlando prep or is it Liverpool prep?
It's Orlando Prep because
Okay.
they announced pretty close to when it's happening. Series 2. So
Yeah.
I reached out to Nino. I said, "Hey, are you willing to do these tournaments leading up to Orlando? Uh, and I'll throw in some cash prize." He said, "Yeah, let's do it." So no questions asked. He just went for it, and
Yeah.
you know, now we're just doing it.
Yep.
No, it's seriously, I mean, and I'm not saying this because you're my friend. I'm just saying this straight up. One of the nicest guys in the
Hmm.
entire community, and
Thanks, guys.
I feel like I'm blessed to be able to talk about Pokemon with you, call you my friend, and speaking of Series 2, dive into some Paradox Pokemon. We got some
Yeah,
new
Yeah, let's
Pokemon to
do it.
play with.
we kind of brushed over it last week on the podcast, but we got Series 2 rules and allowing Paradox Pokemon. A lot of people are kind of happy, maybe not so happy. I know a lot of people were upset that Series 1 is ending so soon, but overall, I think Series 2 will be a good experience for most people. This is what we kind of expected the format to actually be when we started getting back into VGC, right? Everyone was like, hey, let's play with the Ruinous Pokemon, let's play with the Paradox Pokemon, because they are probably going to be legal pretty soon. And if I remember right, Series 2 runs through April, or does it run through March?
Runs through
I think
March, so
April's.
event.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it is through March. So event wise, if you're going to these events, you'll be playing Series 2, Orlando Regionals, Knoxville Regionals,
Mm-hmm.
and and Charlotte Regionals. Those
Yeah,
are the three events, at least off the top of my head. Those are going to be
those are
Series 2
the big
regionals.
US ones that are
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
And I also believe that Vancouver, I think, is also going to be in March as well. Because I know they just had their signups.
Yes.
So if you're going to
I
any
know
of
it's
these
soon.
events, this is going to be a great episode just to reintroduce you guys to some of the Paradox Pokemon. Which I mean, some of them are just really, really, really cool.
There's some really good ones, and then there's some kind of ones, but we'll get into the nitty gritty here. So, looking at this fun little tier list I have sitting here in front of me, you can see that we have all the Paradox Pokemon, ranging from both Scarlet and Violet. Don't worry about Koraidon and Rhydon. We're not gonna rate them today. They are not on our priority list because they are not legal. Um, do you guys want to start with Violet Paradoxes, Scarlet Paradoxes, or you just want to go at the top of the list? I don't care what order you want to go in.
Let's go with the top of the list.
Yeah, let's go with top.
So, Brute Bonnet, the Paradox Amoonguss, grass and dark type. Something that Amoonguss does very well is just like this bulky defensive redirector. Brute Bonnet kind of gets to do that, right? You kind of get to do that bulky redirector thing. You still have access to Rage Powder and all the grass moves that Amoonguss would, but you also have like a base 135 attack stat, which means that you can just punch things now.
Actually, he's
Yeah,
a
no,
lot bulkier. Wow.
Yeah, it is a very bulky Pokemon.
Yeah, it's a lot bulkier than Amoonguss. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about a base 111, 99 bulk, and also
Yeah.
as Carl said, that 127 attack stat. So not only can it eat up attacks, it can dish out a ton of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think just to start it off, just in general with Paradox Pokemon, all of them have base 570 total. Have a base stat total of 570. Besides Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant, who are at 590. So like all of these Pokemon have just especially compared to their call them their like
counterparts, their real world
modern day counterparts. They have like stats on stats. Comparatively.
Oh yeah, their stats are insane.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things with Brute Bonnet is the fact that you have that dark type, so if you do want to go more of that support route, you're able to go and like you have a typing that is immune to Prankster. Prankster Taunt was one of the ways, especially last format in Sword and Shield. Prankster Taunt from Grim or Wims were great ways to really shut down Amoonguss before it can act. With the dark typing, that isn't a worry. And you also have some other, again, offensive tools, namely Sucker Punch, which you're able to put a lot of early pressure on if you go on a more offensive side with Brute Bonnet.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of what Amoonguss was doing in this early Scarlet and Violet format was you would Terra Dark just to be... Not only does it like remove your psychic weakness, you would be immune to Prankster, like you said, and Brute Bonnet can kind of just skips that terrestrialization step, right? You kind of just now are immune to, you don't have to worry about the things that Amoonguss has to worry about so much. You're immune to that prankster. You have good support moves since you are a dark type. One of the problems though is Grass Dark is a kind of very poor typing.
Yeah, such a weird typing.
Unfortunately, it suffers
bug
from.
hits it so hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of weaknesses for Grass and Dark, and like none of them help each other resistance wise. So you're gonna have more weaknesses as Brute Bonnet than you are than Amoonguss, but you are just a little bit bulkier. I would probably put this as like a low A, high B Pokemon. I'm not sure. Like we'll just leave it in A for now and see kind of where other things fall.
See, I put it in B because of the bug, like
just like the
because
typing.
of the typing.
Yeah,
it
I could see that.
It forces you to kind of, because what's real popular. First impression, I think one Paradox might its first impression.
Slitherwing.
We don't. Yeah, I was going to say spoiler alerts. We will get there. I have a lot of.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
I can organize them however I want. Yeah, so I can organize these however I want.
Let's go to Slitherwing. I have some things to say about Slitherwing.
So
in my
Slitherwing, if I remember correctly, there's one big downside. I covered this in the deep dive earlier in the week, last week, that you will never be able to get anything but a plus attack photosynthesis boost with the way your stats are, unless you really take a hit in your IVs, which is a big detriment.
Do you think we should explain what photosynthesis and I just forgot the
Quark Drive.
Quark Drive. What those are for the viewers who do not know?
So photosynthesis is you get a 1.5 times boost to your highest stat currently when sun is out. For Quark Drive, it's the same kind of situation. You get a 1.5 times boost to your highest current stat when electric terrain is set up.
It's 1.3 in your highest stat
for attack
for
everything but speed. Yeah, everything but speed.
So it's like 1.5.
So it's weird because it's like here's life orb boost for your attack or special attack. Here's just slightly less assault vest for your special defense. The defense boost like could be cool, but then it's like here's Choice Scarf. Go fast. Because we don't want to deal with 1.3 times boosts for speed or whatever. I don't know. That's a weird thing to program it that way.
And I don't understand that difference.
But
going back to Slitherwing, I know that we were talking about photosynthesis and Quark Drive. They're also able to be used for booster energy. I would say it's a C tier Pokemon in the grand scheme of things. Bug fighting is a terrible typing. Not great whatsoever. What really does, I think the role that it really does play, it's niche in, and I think it's where you're going to see people use it and use it to success, is on rain teams. Especially Palafin Rain, which was a very, very popular team. Jody went top 4 at San Diego Regionals with it, and I believe that Palafin is just going to be a Pokemon that with staying power. And in general, unless you're running Ice Punch, it's going to really struggle against grass types or Pokemon that Terra into grass types. That photosynthesis boosted first impression is really, really, really strong. And against the Proto-Sun teams that are going to feature Pokemon like the Brute Bonnet that we talked about before, again, that first impression is pressure is really going to help against those teams as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're wondering, Angelo, you just mentioned photosynthesis. What on a rain team? How is that going to work? Well, there's an item called Booster Energy that all these Pokemon can use that can automatically proc the photosynthesis boost. It is a consumable item, and the boost will disappear if you switch the Pokemon out. So it is only a one-time use, especially since First Impression is Fake Out-esque, where it only works right when it's used. But in general, I do think like Slitherwing in that role with that Booster Energy is going to, or other items you can run, Life Orb, AV, on it. And I think like in those specific teams, it will like have like a really, really interesting role and have like some part in the meta.
Yeah. You mentioned its typing not being that great. Bug fighting actually isn't that terrible. Considering where the format's at right now, flying type coverage is fairly uncommon. Most of the time, it's like a Gyarados or a Tyranitar, once in a while Dondozo in Series 1, and
you have Pelipper with
like
Hurricane. But
yeah. Pelipper with Hurricane, Murkrow's Brave Bird. While we didn't see a good Murkrow showing, we also have Talonflame's Brave Bird as well. And even King Gambits, a lot of King Gambits now are running.
They're swapping to that Terra Flying. Now, granted, they may not run Terra Blast on their Terra Flying. A lot of them want to keep running double Dark Move and then like Kowtow Cleave, Sucker Punch, Iron Head, and then probably Brick Break for the King Gambit mirror. But one of the cool things about this is you do get to just change types on this thing, and that's what the best part of being a bug or an ice type I feel like is in this generation is, hey, I can just drop this terrible typing even though my stats more than make up for it because it's, in this case, Slitherwing. I don't remember Slitherwing's attack stat. It's insanely high though. It's to the point where
attack stat is 135.
Jesus.
Insane.
So
I think it gets Swords Dance and Bulk Up as well.
Bulk Up is very interesting.
Bulk Up is insane, and let me see, Swords Dance. No, just Bulk Up.
Bulk Up, I would rather have Bulk Up in this case, just being
Bulk Up
able
is
to
massive.
Boost both your attack and your defense. I've seen people talking about not even really running like booster energy and just running Assault Vest on it.
Right.
Just to be that bulky Pokemon. You have First Impression. Your physical move coverage is very, very deep for a bug fighting type. If I remember right, you get fire coverage, flying coverage, steel coverage, obviously bug and fighting. I believe you get Trailblaze, which is grass. I believe you get...
Just going through it, you get Acrobatics, of course, the fighting coverage, Brick Break, Close Combat, Dual Wing Beat, First Impression, Flame Charge, and Flare Blitz. You get
Earthquake. Oh my god.
Goodness.
Yeah,
this
Earthquake,
thing is deep.
You do get the Trailblaze, U-Turn, Zen Headbutt, Wild Charge.
We get Wild Charge too.
You get Wild Charge.
That's
we get a Flying Answer. That's actually kind of cool.
And you also have, and for singular ground coverage, you do have Stomping Tantrum as well.
Man.
No, this thing can do.
They're trying to make it good.
And again, it's
and
like that's why. I think especially. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. 3 people on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think like the reason why I'm saying it's C is because like I think it is a mon that is a little more linear. And again, like this isn't something you're going to slap on every team. I know we've had a few guys in Littleroot lessons.
They're really
trying to make it work, and the thing is, none of them went to that rain mode. And I think, like, just again looking at rain, and it's not like I had this epiphany. I know that just again researching stuff. Moxie Boosted did a Palafin Slitherwing Rain, and a few people in other friend groups of mine were putting Slitherwing on their Rain team again for those purposes of beating those grass type Pokemon that usually are able to wall Palafin to allow your Palafin, your sweeper, to do sweepy things.
Exactly. Like this, if grass types are good, Slitherwing will be good. That's just kind of like how the long and the short of it goes.
You want a mon that kind of just, you can like slap on a team and it won't have much of an issue. So I do see the like justification putting Slitherwing in C, because you have to try to make it work instead of just, I can click this button and I'm still okay.
It's not like putting a Fluttermane or a Roaring Moon or Iron Bundle into most teams. It's not just plug and play, that kind of situation. Like Slitherwing needs a lot of help.
Right.
That
I agree
brings
with that.
us to Screamtail. Yeah, that's the next
Yeah,
one.
I have a complicated relationship with Screamtail because I love it, and at the same time I don't because like it's so bulky.
Yeah,
It's so freaking bulky,
it's
and
designed to be very bulky.
but it
Just
gives them an
going over.
insanely high speed
Yeah,
for a trick room setter. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's just it doesn't feel right,
It
and
does
it's
feel very awkward.
yeah,
Going through
and
the stats, we're looking at 115.99, 115 bulk with a 111 speed stat. 60. Both offenses are base 65, so you are not doing any damage with this thing. But when you look at its
right.
support kit, you're
It's
looking, of
it's
course,
amazingly
it's
supportive.
Hmm.
It's
everything.
a
It
crazy support mod.
You have screens, you have trick room. Going through it, you have psychic fangs to get rid of your opponent's screens. You have perish song, stealth rock if you're feeling um
If you're feeling cheeky, that's
hazardy.
kind of cool.
It
That's
can
actually kind of
set
Yeah,
your
cool.
terrain. It can set psychic terrain. It can set your weather for you, and it's good in all ways. It's
it
just
also has
like
thunderwave, trick, wish,
So it's got the
fake
standard
tears,
suite of
helping
psychic.
hand.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's even like rock tomb for speed control. And I think
yeah,
like I know what you were saying with the bulk and the speed. I feel like that this Pokemon is the glue for the Proto Sun teams that are going to start appearing. Sun really wasn't a factor. Really wasn't a factor at all in Series One, and it's these past Paradox Pokemon that are going to make it a thing. One of the things I really do like about the past Paradox Pokemon, like what we have right now in B tier with Screamtail and Brute Bonnet, you can throw a Torkoal there, and those are three different Pokemon where you have a Trick Room core, and the Torkoal is also boosting your Screamtail's bulk stats or its speed, depending on how you want to train it,
yeah,
boosting either the bulk or the attack on your Brute Bonnet. You can throw in other uh, past Paradox Pokemon on this team or other Trick Room things on this team, and because of the sun, you don't need the booster energy to proc that photosynthesis. It's going to be going on and off as the weather comes and goes.
hmm
And of course, we
right.
all know how good Torkoal is when it's in Trick
Oh
Room.
yeah,
oh yeah. I will say like Torkoal being the Sunsetter in Scarlet and Violet is the reason a lot of these Scarlet Paradox Pokemon are going to do so well. Probably. We unfortunately did not get a very good electric terrain setter in Pincurchin.
yeah,
Um, it's just how the nature of the game goes. Uh, so a lot of these Violet Pokemon will most likely make good use of booster energy, but what you'll see is just like teams with Fluttermane end up probably either like on a weird item with Torkoal next to it, sometimes Sash, sometimes Specs, and then you'll see these Violet Paradox Pokemon carrying that booster energy because there's just no good way to activate it right now, at least until we get Miraidon.
yeah.
Yeah, no, Miraidon is the great equalizer of things, and I do think it's slightly better than Koraidon, and that's not a slouch against Koraidon as well, which is also just really freaking good. Both of those Pokemon, I think, when we do get to that GS Cup format, both those Pokemon are absolutely unbelievable, and I'm going to be very excited to use them. But right now, because Nintendo decided to give us, not only did they like give us Pincurchin, but it also they took away Rising Voltage. Like there's just
Yeah,
no
that's
support
that's
moves.
the big. I think the big thing is Pincurchin really liked Rising Voltage. Like that was like this a really good move for it. And now that
It
you
was the
don't
only reason
have
why
it,
to run it.
it's gone. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
good benefiter for electric terrain like there is for like Sun. Speaking of electric types, Sandy Shocks. This is a
Oh
weird
man,
one.
I don't know.
This is a
I
weird
have
one.
no I have no opinion on Sandy Shocks.
I know
I
Ro
don't like it.
does.
I don't like it very much.
I love its stats.
That's my only opinion. Okay.
It's like sell us, Ro.
No, and this is tough. I love its stats. 85, 97, 85 bulk, 121 special attack on a 101 base speed. Getting over that base 100 is massive. The electric types, in the grand scheme of things, for this current format, there really are not any good electric types. Electric type special attackers. We'll get to a very good electric type physical attacker later in the video.
Mm-hmm.
But like for that, you can run Scarf, you can run Specs, you can really blow it up with things up with that really, really powerful Thunderbolt. And then you look at its typing, and this is what Carl got me on when I mentioned, hey, can Sandy Shocks be good? Because again, when you look at these stats, it's perfect. It's beautiful.
Okay.
You're going and using electric type attacks into water type Pokemon, which Sandy Shocks is weak to because it's electric ground.
Yeah.
And when what you're trying to threaten equally threatens you, it goes away. Sandy Shocks would be an amazing Terra candidate, but at least this is just my opinion on things. If you are a really good Pokemon only when you Terra, that means that in the grand scheme of things, you're not that great. I personally think just because of the typing, outside of getting it to Terra, it's a C tier Pokemon. If its typing was almost, if it's that secondary typing was almost anything else, I think like if this kept Magneton's typing of Electric Steel, I think it would be at least high B tier when you take into account its stats and also the fact that it can play a role on a team that a lot of Pokemon can't fill right now.
Yeah. Sandy Shocks is interesting, to say the least. Like you said, it's a very good special attacker. I like you said, when I pointed out that's like, oh, you're just weak to water because you're a ground type still, it's just like you gotta make sure you're outspeeding Iron Bundle. Like,
I think it's kind of silly.
You gotta outspeed Iron Bundle. If there's any like Palafin with like Scarf hits you, you really don't want that.
You can just get the Jet Punch and it's kind of done.
Yeah.
It's like I don't like the typing. It's like that's another thing is like Rose said, like you're threatening water types, but at the same time they're threatening you, and it's awkward if you have to. You're a strong mon, you have to terrestrialize it every time, and it's not. Like,
it makes you very one dimensional.
Right. It's just makes you very predictable, and it's just a complicated relationship with Sandy Shocks.
There's a reason Stunfisk isn't that great.
Right.
Let's talk about a Pokemon that is great.
Let's talk about a Pokemon that is good. Okay, so
no. Yeah,
I'm just putting it.
We're gonna talk about this.
We're gonna talk about this for a minute because there's some back and forth here. I know Poppy has this ranked a little bit lower. I'm kind of in the same boat with him a little bit. But I can be convinced either way.
If you want to hear my reasoning, it's kind of like, okay, so with Fluttermane, I love that it's got 135.
Yeah,
let me look that up real quick.
So
it's got
I have it up for
135 special attack, 135 special defense, and 135 speed, while HP, attack, and defense are all 55. Now, don't get me wrong, special attack at 135 is phenomenal. Speed at 135, phenomenal. Special defense at 135, phenomenal. But, hear me out. You have everything in their brother with Sucker Punch. You have everything with some kind of anything that's a threat with some kind of physical move that does so much damage. Okay, Fluttermane has been kind of is a glass cannon. We all know this, but it's like, let me get back on track. It's like I said, everything has a physical move that just does so much damage. And with threats like with the other mods, spoiler alert, Iron Hands, Roaring Moon, and Great Tusks, things like that, everything's gonna hit it. Everything's gonna hit it very hard. Now that forces you to run Focus Sash on it without, and you can't run like booster energy on it because it's so frail. It'll just die because it gets sucker punched. Or you got a King Gambit that has Katal Cleave. That's just gonna hit it stupid hard. So that's why I put it in A, because it's just a glass cannon. That's all it is. And hyper offense and glass cannons kind of die away very quickly because we always reach a like medium in the meta where things kind of settle, kind of, I won't say centralized, but they like
Go down.
get to a point where yeah, they just slow down, start to get bulky, start to get more or less, or I guess less click buttony, as I would say,
Yeah.
because you're not with Fluttermane. You're just clicking buttons, and uh, you're forcing Terra types again because Sucker Punch, Iron Head, things like that. Like it just doesn't. The bulk itself, like special defense bulk, is great. Like 135 is a really great base special defense. It's just everything else is so physical, like a Jet Punch from Palafin, Wave Crash from Adozo, like I've been saying, Katal Cleave and Sucker Punch from King Gambit, Annihilate with Rage Fist, things like that. It just forces Fluttermane into one thing, and it makes it so one-dimensional. Like, and that's not to say the other things it does aren't great, but like you're gonna have to outspeed it before you like you can't give it a chance to outspeed before it kills everything on your team, type of thing. Or you set it up as a revenge killer. Even then it's like, okay, as long as I hit you or pressure you in any way, like I don't have to worry about Fluttermane as much. That's my opinion on Fluttermane. Like glass cannons are just glass cannons. Very easy to go to kind of very easy to counter, but at the same time not so easy to counter. If you're not like, you have to position it right, in my opinion.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. It definitely is a Pokemon that it is a glass cannon if you're hitting it physically. I will say there are some surprising calcs. Spack and I were working on this. I think this was like the first week the game came out, and it was like Mimikyu had to be 252 max adamant, like life orb, for it to knock out like 4 HP or 4 defense Fluttermane with Shadow Sneak. So like there are some, and even I know we mentioned Sucker Punch, and it's Sucker Punch because the fairy typing on Fluttermane, it is a neutral hit, and it is able to live some of those Sucker Punches. The reason why I put it in S tier is because it is, again, one of those Paradox mons. You don't need the booster energy. You can use Life Orb, you can use Scarf, Specs, or Sash. And while it is a glass cannon, it does put out immediate pressure. You can lead with it. It's a Pokemon that like your opponent needs to have. Okay, what is my Fluttermane plan? Fluttermane plan. Because if you don't have that plan in the back of your head, it can 4-0 you. It can run through teams.
Right.
Even just with outside of its coverage moves, which it does have really good coverage, just its Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, and Shadow Ball, it can do a lot of damage. And it is also a very splashable Pokemon. It's a Pokemon that you can easily put onto almost any team, whether it's Proto Sun, Rain, hyper offensive good stuffs, really anything like Fluttermane can like fit on, and I think that's why, and which is quite the opposite of what we were saying with Slitherwing and Sandy Shocks, where it's like, oh, it has to be like this specific team. Like Fluttermane, it's the teams that it doesn't work on. That list is shorter. And there are also other ways to run it that I think are going to be explored more when it gets to the bulkier point. At base 135 speed, the only other speedy Pokemon that you're really worried about that are commonly used outside of like Scarfs and such are Spoiler, Iron Bundle, and Dragapult. And so one of the things Fluttermane does have is Icy Wind, and one of the things that made Regieleki really, really great in Gen 8 was being the fastest on the field and having Electro Web as another form of spread, not only just spread damage, but speed control for its partner to get your opponents, both your opponent's Pokemon at -1, and then let your partner Pokemon pick up KOs from Fluttermane sets up with the chip damage and the speed to both get your partner Pokemon in position and also break any sashes that are there. So the reason why I do think it's S is, again, there are going to be different ways to use it, and just the fact that it's splashable and it forces your opponent to make a game plan in their head. How do I solve this? That so far the other Paradox Pokemon we've gone through don't have that before, and I don't think a lot of the other Paradox Pokemon have that effect as well. So that's why I would say it's an S.
Gotcha.
I could see arguments for both.
Yeah. I've also said it before. Sorry to interrupt the Carl, but it's like you'd have to. I think the best way, personally, is to use it as kind of like an Aleki, like you said, to kind of speed control your way into a better position, rather than kind of. It does put this immediate amount of pressure, an immense amount of pressure as well. So like, it's not a bad mon by any means, but it's just the bulk, because I'm like, personally, I'm a more bulky style type player. I like bulkier style teams. It's just the bulk to me doesn't justify the like usage for me. But at the same time, like you said, Ro, is that you do need to kind of have a game plan for it. You can't just like go, okay, I can beat this Fluttermane just by
doing whatever. Yeah, you have to have a plan.
It. You really have to think about what you're doing. If you're like just going into the series itself, you have to take into account like a lot of series 12 and 8 was, how do I counter Zacian in this format or with this team? Because Zacian was such a threat in that way. So I think Fluttermane kind of presents that same thing, but it's just the bulk that just doesn't justify it to me. But yeah, I mean, your opinion is very valid, and like, yeah, it can be an S tier as well. So I mean, wherever you guys want to put it, I'm okay with that.
It screams very Goldango vibes to me right now with the way Fluttermane works. And I feel like Fluttermane will do the same thing that Goldango does. It'll peak a little while, and then it'll fall off a little while, and then it'll peak again, and it'll fall off again, and it'll kind of have this wave like Goldango is doing, which is hilarious because Goldango has a surfboard. But like, we saw Goldango do really, really well in early Series 1, then it kind of disappeared, and then it popped up at San Diego, has 12 copies in the top 16, and
was it second most used Pokemon or most? No,
I think it was most used in the top 16.
Okay.
But it wasn't. I don't think it was the most used Pokemon overall. I think that probably belongs to something else entirely. But I feel like Fluttermane is right there on the cusp. It is probably that S tier. If we're just like comparing it to all the other Paradox Pokemon, it is probably that S tier. It is probably that this is the Paradox Pokemon you must answer going into Series 2. You gotta have a plan for it. Otherwise, it's gonna run your team down and beat you up, and you're gonna be sad.
Right, yeah.
Great Tusk. This is the Fighting Ground Dawn fan Paradox.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is cool. I like this thing a lot. Um, it's like plus it's like over 100 in defense, over 100 HP, really good attack, and then I don't remember what the speed and special defense are, but
So the speed is 87, which actually isn't that bad. 87 speed ties it with Baxcalibur, which was on the winning team in San Diego. Go Ice types. Special defense is 53, which as the kids say is not good.
yeah, which most Great Tusk are going to probably be carrying that assault vest anyway. This is actually an example of a great assault vest Pokemon because all this thing wants to do is click a damaging move in front of you.
It
You
definitely has a lot of
you have
damaging moves.
all the cool like ground and rock stuff that Donphan normally does. Rock Slide, Earthquake, all that great stuff. You have great spread damage. You also have, I believe, access to the new ground type move Headlong Rush, which is essentially just ground type close combat.
I can confirm that you do have that access to that. You also have Play Rough, Mega Horn, Iron Head, knockoff, the new ice type move, Ice Spinner, which is a physical ice type move, base 80 power, 100% accuracy, and also removes the effect of terrain.
I
So
think
this also
that
makes
one right there is a
yeah,
big kicker for
massive.
these specifically this like fighting ground type because the big things you're weak to are like grass, flying, and things like that. And now you can just punch them a little bit harder because you have that ice spinner. You get to mess with terrain. It gives you a little bit more utility. I feel like as we get out of these hyper offensive teams and teams start to get bulkier, this will be the kind of ground type we see more often than not, rather than Garchomp running around trying to be fast. We'll see things like Great Tusk with Assault Vest being able to tear ground and kind of just bully people out of the game with big stab earthquakes and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I'm not sure. I know with the tier list, I'm not sure if I like Great Tusk more than Screamtail and Brute Bonnet. I might like it a little more than Brute Bonnet. I might say it's like might be like mid to high B for me or low A. But I also think that, like that's how it is now. I wouldn't be shocked if end of this series, as things have progressed, we're saying, oh yeah, this is like
Yeah,
why were we not looking at this Pokemon earlier?
exactly. Do you want to
You
say
know what
anything about
learned
Great Tusk?
Psyshock?
What?
It learned Psyshock. And the Psyshock Great Tusk is actually in the quote unquote useful moves in Pokemon Showdown.
That's
Um,
interesting.
so
That is cool.
It does
yeah,
get
I actually don't know what to say.
That is true. It is another bulk up Pokemon. That is also
Yeah.
true.
Oh, no, not bulk Psyshock, the psychic type attack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that I just don't get that. It does get bulk up as well, which is awesome. And Endeavor, if you want to
Ooh,
do like Sash Endeavor things.
you can do some cheeky things with that.
Yeah.
The thing is with Great Tusk. I love Great Tusk. It's like one of
Okay,
my higher tiered mons. It's just I like it a lot. I've been using it on Showdown a bit, and it's just I love it. It does great with an assault vest kind of set.
And that brings us to the last Paradox Pokemon for at least Scarlet, Roaring Moon. As Ro mentioned,
Roaring. Ah,
earlier, most of the Paradoxes have base 570, except for Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant, who have base 590. Also, fun fact: they're listed separately from the other Paradox Pokemon in the Pokedex.
They are. They're towards the end. They're in the Cool Kids Club.
Yeah, which
So yeah,
whatever that means.
so Roaring Moon, again, another Pokemon that's just stats on stats, and all the stats are in great places. 105, 71, 101 bulk, a massive 139 base attack stat. This Pokemon has a higher attack than Koraidon,
Yeah,
which is
oh
the
wow.
box legendary, and also a blazing fast 119 speed. Just a really, really great Pokemon that again has all its stats in the right places. It appears to be based more on Mega Salamence than Salamence, which I think is nifty. And maybe that's why it has like a higher base stat, because it's not based on the regular one, it's based on the Mega.
Yeah,
Okay.
could be.
That's cool.
Dragon Dark is also a super cool typing. As we know, Hydreigon has been super popular with the same typing in Series 1, and with the Goldango that we just mentioned, the Dragon Dark and then Steel Ghost, that duo perfectly synergizes defensively, where anything that will hit Roaring Moon super effectively, Goldango covers, and vice versa. These are going to be two Pokemon, the Roaring Moon and Goldango, that pair together very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I do like that it gets acrobatics, and for some reason acrobatics feels so much better on Roaring Moon than it does on the other ones. I get it because booster energy, and I saw when the battle stadiums doubles format was announced on Showdown. Um, I saw a lot of Terra type flying Roaring Moons that used acrobatics, and it hit super hard with that 139 base attack,
Yeah.
and with how lightning fast it is, like acrobatics does an insane amount of damage. Because for you guys that who don't know, acrobatics, the power doubles if the user has no help item, paired with booster energy, which is a one use item that activates the photosynthesis ability, and usually its attack is much higher than its speed anyhow.
Yeah.
And like that paired with at the secondary effect of acrobatics is like, I don't know, it's just chef's kiss. It's amazing.
It's so much damage. Things that
Mm-hmm.
take neutral hits from it just go down most of the time.
Right.
If you are weak to flying, goodbye. Like that's just like
Yeah.
the easiest way to describe it. Like you will not survive this hit most of the time, even if you tried and Cal can survive it.
Right.
And it can also hit even harder and go even faster. As a Dragon Dancer, it's I'd say at this point it's probably the premier Dragon Dancer of the format. You also get Brick Break, Crunch. What else do you get for cool moves? Rock Slide. I think one of the coolest moves it does get is a Breaking Swipe.
Yeah, that's what I have to say. I think this is one of the very few Pokemon that get Breaking Swipe this gen.
Yeah.
They really limited the use of that move overall, and I think Roaring Moon being fast and having access to that means that there's going to be more than just the I'm gonna click the damage button kind of sets with this thing. You'll see these more Tailwind Breaking Swipe supportive sets that can still hit you really hard, but aren't the main focus for damage on their teams.
Yeah, and I know that you mentioned it like it's not hitting super hard, but in the grand scheme of things, Breaking Swipe, it's a spread 60 base power move. I know 60 base power isn't a ton, but when you're looking at again that 139 attack stat, that it's not negligible damage. Like this isn't like it's clicking Snarl or something.
Yeah.
It's
Which
still going
I think it gets Snarl too.
It does get Snarl.
So
wow.
There's going to be really cool sets, I think, that come from this as the format develops. People will kind of get off the very fast acrobatic sets, and we'll start to see those Tailwind, Breaking Swipe, Snarl, supporty sets, because this thing is just fast and actually still has decent bulk on top of that.
Yeah. Right. The only thing that's like honestly stopping it from being S tier to me is Fluttermane. Fluttermane eats this thing for breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, and Sunday brunch. And it's considerably faster. I think the only way you're outspeeding it is if you're proccing your photosynthesis to boost speed instead of attack, which as Poppy already said, you will not be able to invest like fully in your attack stat in order for that to happen. You would probably have to be, I have it up. So if you are Max speed Jolly, you hit a speed stat level 50. You hit a speed stat of 188, which is very fast. Uh Actually no, you can do that. That works perfectly. Yeah, so you would have to be max speed Jolly in order to make sure that like you get that speed
You get the
boost
speed
to
boost instead of the attack boost.
yeah,
Right.
and but at the other side of it, if their Fluttermane
If
is a
they're,
plus speed,
yeah, you're
then
just in
it's
trouble.
moot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we talked about a little bit about like Hydreigon being like Dark Dragon as well. Roaring Moon doesn't get the benefit of having Levitate like Hydreigon does.
It
So
does not.
it is much harder to terrestrialize this thing and avoid that 4 times weakness because you kind of open yourself up into a lot of the big ground weaknesses that are in the game.
Right.
Specifically, fire, steel, and poison all would be great. All are great for Hydreigon, but that's because Hydreigon gets to run away from its fairy weakness. But you're also not adding a whole lot of weaknesses on top of that because you don't have to worry about getting hit by Earthquake, Earth Power, whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how Roaring Moons adapt to the Fluttermane problem going forward. I know we saw a ton of Terra Steel in like whatever preseason you want to call it, with like Choice Band and Iron Head to beat Fluttermane. But I think Roaring Moon will have to really adapt as the format starts to shift because there's things like Sylveon are still going to do really really well in this gen, in this format because I'm pretty sure even though it is just quick attack, it's still gonna hurt because it's 4 times effective. And
Yeah.
so
Right.
you'll have to really pivot around and avoid that big fairy type weakness for Roaring Moon for a while.
I think
Mhm.
Spack the Titan and I them and I were talking specifically about Roaring Moon, and I think they said it perfectly. Like, Roaring Moon needs balance. It's super fast and super offensive, and the setting it needs around itself is a balanced team.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the format does move more towards balance, I think that's when you'll see it start to thrive more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Let's get
agree.
into some of these Violet paradoxes. Unfortunately for Violet, a lot of these paradoxes fall flat comparatively. There's like I would say 3 real clear winners. The other 4 are kind of underwhelming. It's not underwhelming is not the right word, but because we don't have access to easy Quark Drive, right? We don't have access to easy electric terrain to set these guys up like we do Torkoal for Sun. They suffer because it really limits what items they can run, and it really limits what you can actually do with these guys.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I do as well. However, I do think that 2 of them are really strong.
Yeah, there's a clear distinction of the 2 or 3 that are like heads and shoulders above the other 4. One of which being Iron Bundle.
I love this Pokemon.
The
I-
shiny. I love this Pokemon because the shiny is so good.
So that was the thing. So my first, I did it last week. My first shiny hunt ever, in Violet was shiny hunting bundle. The first go around, I got a 0 attack IV.
Mm-hmm.
The second go around, I got 3 shinies on my second sandwich. 2 of them marked, one of them being a marked 1 IV, which is shiny Iron Bundle. The Peckish is now going to be my bestie.
That's
And
awesome.
I was able to
Funny.
use.
That's pretty funny.
And I was able to use my 2 of the other bundles I got to get I got a shiny Fluttermane and a shiny Roaring Moon. Shout out to Alex
Nice.
from the TRT Discord, and to Emmy, friend of LRL, who went and found these shinies for me. But you know, going way back to what Pop was saying about like the discount Regielekis. This is discount Regieleki.
Yeah, this is our discount Aleki. Like this is it, right?
Yeah. So the
this
bulk
thing
isn't.
It's what
Here we
1
go.
point faster than Fluttermane, right?
Yes, it is. It's base 136 speed. So for relevant Pokemon in the format, it's the second fastest. Again, the fastest being Dragapult, to go with a 124 special attack stat and a surprisingly bulky 114 to physical defense. So on the physically defensive side, it's actually like surprisingly bulkier than it looks. However, 56 HP and 60 special defense is not good at all.
Yeah.
But who cares? You get fast stab icy wind, and you just click that button, and it's great.
My thing is that it's a little more spread out than Fluttermane, so like its bulk is just a little better for me.
Mhm.
That's why I like it a lot more, and I kind of rate it as S because like it's like Rose said, a discount Regieleki, and it hits super hard. It gets chilling water, which lowers attack. It gets freeze dry, which is your answer to a lot of really solid rain team like attackers like Palafin. It's your answer to Dozo if it doesn't Terra type. Even if it Terra types to Dragon or something, it's still being threatened by Iron Bundle, a Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Ice Spinner, and it's an insanely good Pokemon, and it can even set your electric terrain. You could throw Focus Sash on it and just like, okay, I'll set electric terrain. I can set up another one of my Cork Drive mons like Iron Hands or something. And it's just like, I don't know, I like it a lot more than personally Fluttermane because of things like that. It can set up your other mons. And I gotta see if Fluttermane gets Fluttermane does get Sunny Day, which is, you know, you get great utility out of both, which is why like I think it's well, let me I do kind of I would be wrong if I said it's not putting or it's putting the same pressure as it is as Fluttermane does, which it doesn't, but it's faster. It can eat a hit more than Fluttermane can. But yeah, like I love Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle is going to be a staple on a lot of my teams going forward, and it's good to me. I love it.
I completely agree with everything Poppy just said. It's an S tier Pokemon to me. This is probably, I mean, again, the Ice King likes the Ice type. Water's wet, go birds, all that.
It just it checks all the boxes for you, bub.
Yeah, no, this is it's shiny is just like so sleek and perfect.
Oh yeah.
I think one of the other things that Poppy didn't add to it is it not only is this a great check to those Rain Mons that just did really, really well in San Diego, it also, you can just drop this Pokemon on those Rain teams. Go Terra Water, your Hydro Pump, Terra Water, your like Terra Water Hydro Pump in the rain, you're blowing stuff up.
Yeah.
And it becomes an insanely threatening Pokemon offensively as well. I think in general, just me personally, this is one of the best created Pokemon I've ever in this generation, just in general. And to see an Ice type get love like this, just fills my heart with just warmth and joy. I can go on and on. Like I love Iron Bundle.
It's insanely good, I think.
Yeah. I will say though, the one thing I know item wise, I do think that this is a Quark Drive Pokemon.
This is a very much a booster energy must play Pokemon.
Yeah. Yes, booster energy.
I mean, the same can be said about the other ones as well. Like they're all kind of just they need booster energy because
I think the main reason why I think with Bundle more than the others is because in your bundle mirrors, you want to make sure that, I mean, worst case, you're speed tying. Because if you're not speed tying and they're getting their Icy Wind off first, then you're losing the edge of Iron Bundle, which is being able to get off those really, really fast Icy Winds turn 1. And also, just in general, these two Pokemon that are currently in S tier, Bundle and Fluttermane, they also complement each other really well. You can lead both of them in insanely hyper-offensive leads, and one of the things that Series 1 really lacked were those, like, immediate turn 1 hyper offensive leads that can just put an opponent on the back foot immediately, and those two Pokemon together creates that sort of team dynamic that we haven't seen yet in official Scarlet and Violet play.
I'm about to say someone's not been playing enough Goldango Murkrow.
I think this is completely different.
Nah, it does exactly what you said. It puts out immediate pressure on the opponent. My problem with my problem with Iron Bundle is they got rid of Scald. They got rid of your medium tier water moves. So now you're playing Chilling Water, which is 50 base power, or Hydro Pump, which is going to knock things out. But now you gotta play the accuracy game, and that's how they balance this Pokemon. That's how they've balanced this Iron Bundle out a little bit. It's scary.
Carl, as I always say, 80% of the time it works every time.
Yeah, for sometimes that's not enough. And I'm very much on reducing the amount of RNG that I have to deal with on my teams. I probably will not be a very big Iron Bundle player for at least the majority of the time I'm playing Scarlet and Violet, just because of the fact that if I'm playing it for damage, I am not going to want to click Hydro Pump ever, just because I don't want to put myself in a situation of, if my Hydro Pump misses, I'm very far behind.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
I do like the support, like Icy Wind, Chilling Water sets. I really do like those. Like y'all mentioned, like the Bundle v Bundle matchup, you want to be first. That's why you want the booster energy. It's very reminiscent of Max Speed Alecki versus Max Speed Alecki. And a speed tie will get you. And that's kind of what it comes down to. And so we'll probably see people trying to figure out unique ways to make sure that their Iron Bundle goes first, whether that's things like Fake Out or other fast pressure, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see where Iron Bundle shakes out after the meta starts to settle, because like you said, it's going to be that very good hyper offensive run 'em down mon for a while.
Yeah, can agree with that.
The other really good Pokemon out of Violet is Iron Hands. This thing is a monster.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
No.
I don't know if we've seen.
This is an S tier mon as well.
This is probably the underrated S tier mon, I think.
Right.
People slept on this Pokemon at the start.
They were, and now I know that we had Aaron, who is our Nostradamus.
Yeah, he loves this
immediately. Series 2 is like, I'm gonna play Iron Bundle, and just starts building as many Iron Bundle teams. And
you mean Iron Hand?
Came up with this crit Iron Bundle. And I keep saying Iron Bundle. My mind's always on ice types.
He loves
Iron
that
Hand.
bundle.
I do love that bundle. I shiny hunted bundle, didn't shiny hunt hands.
I got 3 hands if you need one. It'll be fine.
I'm gonna take one of those after. Please and thank you.
It's not 0 speed, but it'll be fine.
I actually have a 0 speed hands from when I was trying to catch a raid hands. I got the 0 speed, and I'm like, I don't need that. Yeah. Back to the Iron Hands though. Aaron, you can do so many sets. Stat wise, this thing is just unbelievable. 154 HP, 140 attack, 108 and 68 are its other 2 bulk stats, and a super slow base 50 speed, which means that it goes zoomies in Trick Room.
Yeah.
And you have, I think there's like 3 distinct sets with Iron Hands that are, I think all 3 are really good. You have the AV variant, coverage wise, you have the Elemental Punches, you have Play Rough, Close Combat, Wild Charge if you want a stronger hitting electric type attack. But one of the things in the AV set and also in the Choice Band set is it learns Volt Switch. And this Pokemon can act as a super bulky pivot on a bunch of different teams. This can be the Token Future Pokemon on Proto Sun, which usually is a team that leans towards Trick Room because of Screamtail and Torkoal. You can use it in rain teams to check other rain teams, hit other water types. just general Trick Room, general good stuffs. Like it's a great Pokemon. In the grand scheme of things, this is another Pokemon that can honestly join. Like you could have a team with Bundle, Hands, and Fluttermane, um, doing its thing. And again, like using either Bundle as that bulky pivot with Volt Switch. Swords Dance sets are also really, really good. I know it gets Belly Drum as well, but Belly Drum is a lot of win more. I know I was
Yeah.
going through this with Carter yesterday where it was he wanted to know like if it was like either Terra Fire or Terra Flying at +2 would KO a max defense invested Amoonguss, and with 0 attack investment, a +2 Iron Hands, its Terra Blast will knock out a 252 plus defense Amoonguss. Like that's how much damage it's doing. That max physical bulk Amoonguss will die to a +2 0 attack investment Iron Hands.
Yeah.
And then of course Aaron's set is the
critical hit.
The critical hit one,
Yeah.
which I've just been talking a lot. You guys do that one. I need a drink.
If I remember right, this one's like Drain Punch, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Focus Energy, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like triple attacks, Focus Energy, your max special defense. I don't think there's any attack investment. If there is, it's just a very minute amount.
So just hear me out, and it's probably going to be kind of, it's not more like praising Iron Hands. The only thing I don't like about Iron Hands is that it doesn't get wide guard like Hariyama does.
Yeah, that's like my one big complaint.
Yeah. Granted, Hariyama doesn't have the same bulk as Iron Hands, which is a huge deal. But at the same time, like you need the utility of wide guard to kind of make dealing with Iron Hand's immediate threat, which is Fluttermane.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of like, granted, you could pivot it out, you could switch, you could position a little differently, but like I said, wide guard is huge for like threats like Fluttermane and Goldangle, things like that just rely on spread damage to put that pressure on a team or on opponents.
Yeah.
And wide guard really shuts that down. And the only like justification I would go without wide guard is if it was next to a Armor or Armarouge. I don't know how to say the name, but
Either one's
that has wide guard. You know what I mean? Like you need a mon that has wide guard near it.
Yeah,
to kind of.
I can see that
because its special defense is only 68, and that kind of like maybe to me it kind of forces you to play with Assault Vest and kind of invest a little into special defense just to kind of calc for those double dazzle gleams or those moon blasts from Fluttermane. And it doesn't get guts, which that's mainly what a lot of Harry's run anyway. But yeah, that's my biggest complaint, and I think it's a very important thing to note with Iron Hands is no use of wide guard, but everything else about Iron Hands is just great. Aside from that fact, So yeah. I do love Iron Hands. It isn't S tier to me. It's just that one move is so important in my opinion that it's like, it's one of those things I think you have to consider as well into kind of like tiering Iron Hand or running Iron Hands. So yeah, that's my take, I guess.
I think one of the things with Iron Hands that just goes for a few of these other Paradox Pokemon, like there's certain ones, like I mean you're not going to use Delibird or Misdreavus, but like with Iron Hands, with Brute Bonnet, with the two the variants for Volcarona, for Roaring Moon, like there are ones where you're thinking like, should I be using the paradox form, or is the present day form better off? And like with some of these Pokemon, like I saw on Twitter earlier, like there's people running both Brute Bonnet and Amoonguss on the same team. Like you can like you're able to do that. You might need. I might have to have a sit down with you if you decide to do that. Just make sure like you're okay. But like those are things like you can do, and with like Hariyama plays its own role. And I think that's the coolest part with these Pokemon, where it's like, yeah, they're the same, they're inspired by the same thing, but some of them do similar things, but they still have their own niche.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That was what something I brought up, was just like Iron Hands not having Wide Guard is a big like takeaway between it and Hariyama and its counterpart. So that's something that people will pick and choose. If they want the Wide Guard, they'll probably play Hariyama and take the hit on having those extra bulk stats. Or if they're not as important in Wide Guard, they'll probably pick that Iron Hands just to make sure that they have that extra damage, that extra coverage, and things like that.
Yeah.
That brings us to probably the other good Pokemon from Violet, which is Iron Valiant. Fairy Fighting, I believe, this is the first Pokemon of a Fairy Fighting type. Fairy Fighting is only weak to Poison, Flying, and Psychic, I believe, are the big three.
Oh, wow.
Because Fighting removes your Steel weakness. You're 4 times resistant to Dark, which is really cool. But this we called Fluttermane the Glass Cannon. I think this is the Glass Cannon. This is the Pokemon that can run physical or special. It's wicked fast. Its defenses aren't that great. You're gonna hit something really hard, but then you're gonna get hit really hard and get bopped.
So I'm actually going to say this. I know you currently have it in A. I actually have this as a D tier Pokemon for VGC.
Yeah.
Oh, you have this way too low, guys.
This is, in my opinion. So when you're looking at the bulk, like as Carl said, 74, 90, 60 bulk isn't amazing. You have base 116 speed, which is pretty fast. Base 120 special attack, base 130 physical attack. So I think if you are to run it on a VGC sense, its physical attack is better. But like for me, like Iron Valiant screams singles Pokemon. It's because we don't have mixed attackers really in VGC, and so it's like for me it just feels like again like it feels like it's a like a singles Pokemon. I don't see it doing as well in VGC, and I'd love to be wrong, but like for me at least, I would at least have it in like C, if not D.
So Iron Valiant overall, like you said, it has that base 130 physical attack. It is the second Pokemon to get access to Spirit Break.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And so one of the big things Grimmsnarl people thought was they were going to do with Grimmsnarl was max attack Spirit Breaks and hit you really hard. So you don't have to play Play Rough anymore.
Ooh.
That is a big thing. You have a good physical fairy type attack now in Spirit Break for Iron Valiant.
That could change some things for me. Maybe I would put it in B.
You also need to go through and look at the slew of coverage moves that this thing gets access to.
So you get
so
Drain Punch.
Here I go again. Here's where I put it. I put it in C. Okay? And the reasoning behind that is you're gonna struggle with this Pokemon because like I was talking it over with someone in another Discord server and they want to make Iron Valiant work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's your favorite mon. Like I'm all for getting your favorite Pokemon to kind of just, if it can become viable, let it be viable, because Venusaur is my favorite Pokemon and it was viable for a very long time in Generation 8. So I'm all for it. But the thing is, like, because it's a mixed attacker, you're gonna struggle finding a place for it. Because, like, yes, it gets Spirit Break. Yes, it gets a ton of coverage. But at the same time, your nature, it's going to be very nature dependent. So, Naive, which is plus speed, minus special defense. Then you get something like Lonely, which is plus attack, minus defense. Or you get Mild, which is plus special attack, minus defense. It all these plus a good nature plus like the positive stat, which is speed, attack, or special attack, are all very like negative towards the bulky stat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because do you want to sacrifice that bulk just to make it a mixed attacker? Or do you want to run it straight special? Or do you want to run it straight physical? And that's why I think it's C, because people are going to really struggle finding a place for it. But at the
Yeah,
same
I think
time, it's gonna find like that one spot where your team is lacking, like that one physical attack, that physical attacker your team is missing. Iron Valiant's gonna be the one, or
Mm-hmm.
that special attacker you're missing. Iron Valiant's gonna be the one, but you're gonna have to pick. You're gonna have to pick that. You can't just run it mixed attack like Rose said. It's not singles where you can benefit from mixed attackers. It's VGC where you have to have a role for each thing on your team that synergizes well. And that's why I think Iron Valiant kind of struggles with. But at the same
yeah,
time, it benefits from the flexibility of its move pool and its like stats.
yeah, I think the thing that really kills it is the fact that whether you're running it physical or special, like hypothetically you're running it physical because that's the
That's the higher
higher
stat.
attack stat.
Yeah.
You're playing without 120 stat points. Like
Right.
that's a lot to play without, and I think like if the stats were even just distributed a little more evenly, and like the attack or the special attack, like those stats were a little lower, and it was bulkier, I think like a Pokemon like Gudra, where it has in its attack stats, both of them are relatively similar, but everything else is so like is flat enough and high enough where it's like okay you can play with either or. I think with Valiant you're really missing out on like a massive chunk of stats, um where I think like Pokemon are stats. I said earlier today, like all of these Pokemon are just massive bundles of stats, and a lot of them have stats in like really good places. I think Valiant is a Pokemon that sadly doesn't have those stats in the proper places. Everything else about the Pokemon's amazing. The typing's super cool. So the Spirit Break does make me say it's not D. I would be okay with again like low B C, because Fast Spirit Break it does sound really great, but I, unless it would take a insanely creative team builder to really take it over the top.
Yeah. I agree with that.
That brings us to probably the worst one, an Iron
Ooh,
Jugulus.
yeah, probably.
This at this like I don't see why you wouldn't play Hydreigon. If you're gonna play Iron
Yeah,
Jugulus,
just use
just play
Hydreigon.
Right.
Hydreigon.
It does
Um,
everything
I,
Hydreigon does.
I mean, again, the stat spread is great. 94, like, so your bulk is 94, 86, 80, 122 special attack, 108 speed. Comparing it with Hydreigon stats, which I will have in a hot minute.
I think it has
Uh,
less special attack than Hydreigon, but more speed than Hydreigon. I
so it
think that's what it
has
is.
3 less special attack, and it has so Hydreigon's 125 to Jugulus's 122. Jugulus does have 10 more points of speed, and it's also Hydreigon is slightly bulkier because Hydreigon has 92, 90, 90, while Jugglets has 94, 86, 80. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I
I believe it
yeah,
still gets access to Tailwind. Is that right?
yeah, it does.
So
That's
fast,
like-
it's a faster Tailwind setter, but
Like
if you're
that's
playing,
that's a good thing.
it
Yeah,
is. But
yeah.
like if you want like a fast, like dark type Tailwind setter that isn't Murkrow, we have Roaring Moon, who's 11 points faster, and also does other things that make it unique.
You also just
namely-
still have Hydreigon.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Right, like it's just Hydreigon without the bulk.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it's
in my opinion.
Hydreigon if it's slimmed down.
Right. Yeah, that's easy.
It is the Dark Flying type, which is a very good typing. Like we saw
Yeah.
Yveltal push that typing around very, very well in Sword and Shield. It'll do well here too. It's just it's not the greatest when it comes to terms of competing with its counterpart in this case, Hydreigon.
Right.
And again, I also think like when you said like with Hydreigon and Yveltal, like Yveltal with the typing, it's Yveltal, it's the ability as well, where
Dark Aura.
is boosting itself. I mean, sure you have Cork Drive, which could activate, but again, it's like, what are we doing?
Exactly.
It's one of those. If you want to use it because it's your favorite Pokemon,
Go for it.
Go for it. It's like not like awful compared to other Pokemon that can fill its role. Then yeah, it becomes redundant.
I agree.
Next up, Iron Moth.
Iron Moth.
I am
Well,
not a
like
big
a
fan of Iron
Interesting.
Moth in general.
Oh my.
Fire poisoning is very, very cool. Fire poisoning is a decent typing. I like it a lot. I like that part a lot. 140 base special attack is really, really good. This thing will hit like a truck. They didn't give it Sludge Bomb.
No, they
Isn't
didn't.
No.
Oh,
No,
You're-
you get
Sludge Wave
you get,
and Venoshock are your best poison type moves. Unless you want to use
And you
Acid
really
Spray.
yeah.
mm,
So it also gets it does get Hurricane. It gets Fiery, of course it gets Fiery Dance,
Yep.
Discharge for another, but again it's like you get Discharge but you're hitting everything else. You do get Dazzling Gleam. It is a relatively fast Pokemon as well. Base 110 speed to go along with that 140. I think this would probably be in my opinion, like the Violet equivalent of Sandy Shocks. Of its stats are really great. Bulk stats of 80, 60, 110 are pretty decent. You have that massive special attack. You have the really good speed. But then the typing ×4 weakness to ground is never good in VGC. Because I feel like every Pokemon, if you're looking for a coverage move, it's slap a ground type move on it, because ground is just generally a great offensive typing. Now, with that being said, Fire Poison, we did have like a brief, call it week and a half, where people were using Salazzle a lot, not only for its fake out, but for what people were doing was it was super fast overheat with Eject Pack, where you would nuke something with an overheat and then switch out to reset the bone. Not only just reset the stat drop, but also reset your fake out. And like I think at least back for Series 1, that poison fire offensive coverage was actually great. But the fact that you don't get Sludge Bomb really hurts it, because you're being forced to either run Sludge Wave and hitting yourself, or run Venoshock, which just isn't good.
Yeah.
Um,
What people have been doing so far with Iron Moth is it is a very good check into Fluttermane. Your naturally high special defense means that you're able to take a lot of those hits from Fluttermane, even with like a Choice Specs or a Photosynthesis boost. Fire Poison is great into its Fairy type stab. You don't really have to worry about its Ghost stab too much. And if the Fluttermane's coverage moves are usually Icy Wind or Mystical Fire, and you resist both of those, It's just they didn't give you a move to hit Fluttermane with. That's the worst part. It's like they made you a great check into this Pokemon, but you can't hit it. You have to hit it twice, at minimum twice.
Right.
And that's the big problem.
I don't like that it doesn't get Quiver Dance. I mean,
not getting Quiver Dance really hurts.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
I also think the other thing
doesn't get it, but at the same time, it gets bulk up. It at least gets a setup move.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't think Iron Moth gets like any good setup. It's agility and does it get like Electroweb?
I mean,
no, it just gets agility. That's it.
I mean, Fiery Dance can be used to like buff. It's only a 50% chance though to buff its special attack by 1.
I love coin flips.
Yeah. And also going back to what you were saying about like it countering Fluttermane, the other issue with it is you're attacking into Fluttermane's significantly higher bulk stat.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be shocked, even if you had Sludge Bomb, and it was super effective, I wouldn't be shocked if you still weren't KOing Fluttermane because like even with the 55 base HP, like 135, like its special defense is only 5 points lower than your special attack.
Yeah.
So it kind of like cancels itself out. For me, I think it's a C tier Pokemon.
Yeah,
like
I think people will figure out to do stuff with it. It's not like Slitherwing where
I can go with low B.
It's not like Slitherwing where it's like you're stuck photosynthesizing, or in this case, Quark driving one stat. You can get away with doing more on Iron Moth with your Quark drive boost, but I think the typing itself is enough to keep it above B. Like, yes, you are 4 times weak to ground, but because you are a big fairy resist, you also are a fighting resist, a grass resist. Like, you resist a lot of common types on top of that, so it kind of balances itself out, whereas bug fighting doesn't really resist a whole lot. Ground electric doesn't really resist a whole lot.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Iron Thorns, Mechagodzilla. Rock Electric is not a good typing.
No, I have him in Iron Jugulus and D2.
In the same tier? I could see that, actually. I could 100% see that, really.
Yeah, I also think that this is D tier.
Because it's the same thing, like, just use
T-Tar.
Yeah.
Again, like, bunch of stats. 100, 110, and 84 for bulk. Base 134, physical attack. Even its speed at 72 isn't, like, the worst thing in the world. It's in that awkward mid-tier but, like, it can play in Trick Room if need be. It can play in Tailwind if need be.
It's 10 points faster than regular Tyranitar.
Yeah, the typing just does nothing for it. Like when you look at even its electric coverage,
you thought ground electric was bad? Rock electric is worse.
Yeah, and not even that. It's like its electric coverage is Thunder Punch and Wild Charge, and Wild Charge just isn't a great attack because you're doing that.
They needed
recoil
to fix electric physical moves, so we actually had a decent physical electric attack for these Pokemon, besides Wild Charge.
Yeah,
that's a big problem. Iron Hands gets away with it because it's Iron Hands.
Yeah, I also think if Iron Hands, if we had that better physical electric attack and Iron Hands got it, I think it would be. It's already S tier, but it would be above and beyond.
It would probably be above the other two by then.
The fact that we're talking about Iron Hands when we're supposed to be talking about Iron Thorns...
It tells you something, right?
It tells you something. And again, it's like, all of these Pokemon, if it's your favorite, you can probably make a team that you can ladder with, get to Master Ball, have fun. I don't think you will be seeing this at the top tables in any of the Series 2. Any of the Series 2 regionals, and if it is at the top table, I will gladly
cover it. Yep, we'll cover it.
I will tweet about it. I will say I'm wrong.
That brings us to the last Violet Paradox.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, you're fine. Did you want to say anything about Iron Thorns before we move on?
Yeah, just like I said before, it's just like I think Iron Jugulus and Iron Thorns were just like I can use their like modern equivalent or their modern equivalent.
This just
better,
clicked. That
and I
just
can
clicked in
use
my
them.
head. The reason these suck is because
oh my god,
it's because they're most of them are pseudo legends, and so they're actually less stats than Tyrant. Iron Thorns is 570. Tyranitar is space 600.
yeah.
Well,
Oh my god, even.
And I
Roaring
believe
Moon, same
Hydreigon
thing.
is in the same boat, right? Is Hydreigon in the
Yeah,
same boat
same
where
with
it's more
Hydreigon.
stats than Iron
Yeah.
Jugulus?
It does. I mean, same with Roaring
That's
Moon. I think
that's the problem.
That-
Roaring Moon is
that
just
is
10
something.
off, and that's not a big deal. But being
Right.
30 off is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the other thing with Roaring Moon compared to Salamence is that when you look at Roaring Moon, it's
Dark Dragons are better typing than Dragonfly. That's a
and
big
I
thing
think,
there.
and it's also just the distribution. And again, talking about wasted stats, Salamence has a base special
ton
attack
of special
of
attack.
It has a base special attack of 110. Roaring Moon is a base special attack of 55. So even when you remove those 10 stats, that's still 40.
It's still a better distribution.
Yeah, that's still like I can't do math, even though I do that for a living. That's still 50 points of stats that Roaring Moon gets in places that
Salamence
it can
doesn't.
actually take advantage of that Salamence can't, unless you're running special Salamence, which again did play top 4 at the most recent season 1 regional. So maybe special Salamence can play a different role, but again, you're talking different roles and everything.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Rolly Donphan.
Yeah, let's talk about Iron Treads, not Cryon. I think you mentioned that the distribution of stats is a problem. I think this is more of a problem for Iron Treads in general. It is so crazy fast for what it's trying to do. And it's like it's a base 100 plus speed or something like that.
Base 106.
Yeah. And you really don't want that. That's not where you want that speed. You don't want the speed on Iron Treads. I think if Iron Treads was just a little bit bulkier instead of faster, I think this Pokemon would be better. Steel Ground is an okay typing. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I think because it is so fast and its coverage moves are weird.
Yes, so for its coverage moves, you do have a lot of shared moves with Great Tusk. You are getting that like Earthquake, Mega Horn, Ice Spinner. It does get Steel. I does get Steel Roller, and I don't think a lot of the other Pokemon get Steel Roller, but like Steel Roller is just significantly worse Ice Spinner.
I'm about to say it's worse Ice Spinner. Yeah.
One of the big differences that makes Iron Treads worse than Great Tusk is it does not get Headlong Rush.
Yeah.
And so you're using either Earthquake or what else does it get? You're using I know it gets Earthquake. Actually, yeah, it's either Earthquake or Stomping Tantrum. Doesn't get high horsepower at all. So
yeah,
its ground type
it's
coverage
in a
isn't
real
great.
pickle. Yeah.
Okay, I think the complete opposite. Like Great Tusk, like I love both of those mons because like to me their stat distribution is kind of like perfect. I can use Great Tusk in a slower, more bulky kind of my heavy Trick Room Abuser with Headlong Rush, Close Combat, things like that. Like you sacrifice a lot of bulk for those two moves, which I don't think is that much of a big deal for Iron Treads because it gets Smart Strike. It gets like to me, I think the moves that it gets, the coverage it gets are kind of the same thing as Great Tusk, except for Headlong Rush and Close Combat, which they're great. They're very good, powerful moves, but they sacrifice all that bulk you get. from those mons. And that's why I like Iron Treads a little more because it can go on a rain team and function really well. You could throw an assault vest on it. You could ice spinner, rock slide, smart strike, knock off, iron head. All these things it gets are really good tools. Like it gets iron defense and body press. It gets bulldoze. It can slow down the game for you. It can just, like I said, I love these two mons, Great Tusk and Iron Treads. They're both really good mons to me. It gets Rapid Spin. It gets Rapid Spin's not so great or Stealth Rocks, but these things like you get Glamora, who made a really big splash during Series 1, setting up Toxic Spikes, and that would kind of slow down the game for you. For other players,
Mm-hmm.
Rapid Spin
No,
gets rid of it. And,
I do think you bringing up Glamora's Toxic Spikes is big
yeah,
because we did see I think it was Maluka, who the winner the of San Diego, like he said that he ran Terra Poison um Garganical specifically to absorb the toxic spikes. So it's really weird to say that like we're talking about prepping and like teching things for
A
hazards in
hazard.
VGC.
right.
But like yeah, what you were
Yeah,
saying about like having rapid spin, like that is like a niche. I mean for me, I would probably have it either like super low B or high C.
yeah,
I prefer Great Tusk. I think Great Tusk does more things. I think it's if if Iron Treads, if it got Headlong Rush, I think it would
yeah.
be significantly better. Um, but like losing that move, like that's like the deal breaker for me. To keep me again, like favoring one or the other.
Gotcha.
Um,
I mean, I can agree with that. Like,
Okay.
it's not. It's all kind of like it's objective, obviously,
Yeah.
but like it like Great Tusk. It's a great mon because of moves like Headlong Rush and Close Combat that Iron Treads doesn't get. But yeah, like I agree with you. It's kind of like high. To me, it's more high, like low B, or I mean higher B and low A. To me, just because like I love where it's at stat wise and everything it does get. While Great Tusk to me is just a little bit lower, just like because all these things, all these weaknesses and like type disadvantages can just be cleared away with Terra types. So I never
Yeah.
really take that into account with some mons that kind of have a bad typing, like Sandy Shocks. It can benefit from a Terra type, but you're
yeah.
stuck Terra
Yeah.
typing it. While Iron Treads and Great Tusk don't necessarily need it, but they just benefit further from
Mhm.
it. So
I
they
would.
I
have better
do.
spots on teams.
The big reason
Yeah.
why I am down on Iron Treads overall is like, yes, it is fast. Yes, it is a steel ground type. Garchomp does its job a little bit better because Garchomp can Terra ground safely, and you're not losing a whole lot. Whereas if you
Yeah,
Terra ground Iron Treads, you lose the best part of all the steel resistances you get
Mm,
for Iron Treads. You take
okay.
away part of that, like Iron Treads does a Pokemon that kind of doesn't want to terrestrialize, right?
Yeah,
Which it's just like at that point, if you're gonna just like earthquake things with Iron Treads, why aren't you using Garchomp? It's not as fast, but it's very similar, and you do get to Terra and get that extra boost on top of your already really good earthquakes.
gotcha. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, again, like with all of these Pokemon, and I think it's like, I think the best way, or at least the way I view the Paradox Pokemon, is they're like the Gen 9 equivalent to Ultra Beasts,
Yeah,
which also were around the same stat total, except Paradox Pokemon have more normal stats than the Ultra Beasts, who just had weird stats all over.
it's funny that you
And
mentioned that. That you compared them to the Ultra Beasts. Ultra Beasts got removed from sub legendary status for this game.
really,
Yeah,
Jeez.
That is a
So
change that happened
did that,
this game.
that probably matched with if you match the paradox, because the way I viewed these, like, going in, and the reason why I thought that we were just going to get a full year of regional decks, like, all in from day one, was because the paradox mons to me were just this game's iteration of the Ultra Beasts, and the Ruins were pretty much this game's iteration of the Tapus. And so at first I thought it was going to be very weird to like not have these Pokemon a part of the game immediately, but with them wanting to do like the series thing, so to speak, like it kind of worked, even though I disagreed with it. I think these Pokemon are just great additions to really any team. I think almost all of them are wicked splashable. I think that with the past Paradox Pokemon and Torkoal, it adds back a new team archetype that we didn't see in Series 1. So it's like a different team. We're going to start seeing some Weather Wars now between the already good Palafin Rain teams and the Proto Sun teams that are going to start popping up as well.
Yep.
These are just all awesome Pokemon. I think that they're just some of the best parts of this game, of this generation, and I really can't wait to see how all of them place. Can't wait to see us all being right, and this tier list being perfect. And we can say, see, you should listen to us.
I'm ready for Iron Thorns to just come and run an event, and we're all going to be salty as heck.
Iron Jugulus is going to like win a regional and then burst into my apartment and like tear me to shreds.
Yeah.
Okay. With all that said and done, this is almost a 2-hour episode, guys. Good job.
Yeah, I realized
we survived.
That.
We survived.
I'm out of coffee.
I'm about to say, I ran out of water like 30 minutes ago, so.
I drink, what was it? My French press was like up to like here, I think. Coffee.
It's gone now.
We started. Yeah, it's all completely gone. So I'm not going to go to bed till like 1.
Yeah, you can keep me company.
I don't have to be an adult tomorrow until like 9, I think. So that's fine.
That'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be alright.
Yeah. So, on our way out the door here, Ro and Poppy, where can they find you guys at? Whichever one you want to go first.
You go first, Poppy.
You can just find me on Twitter at PapiCantan, or Discord. If you really want to reach out to me, you can message me on either. I'll get back to you whenever I can, which is usually pretty quick. But yeah, that's about it. Just Discord and Twitter.
Yep. Ro?
First thing before I plug, I got asked to do this. Shout out to my fiance Amanda, who asked me to shout her out on this video. I don't know if you want to listen to this. If you do, it's because I made you listen to it, and you'll be suffering through 2 hours to hear this exact part. Love you so much.
There you go. We got it. We got a free listen for sure.
Yep. You can find me at Ro VGC. You can also find me in our Discord doing mod things. You can find me yelling in sports about the Eagles. Go Birds. And Carl, tell them where else they can find me.
So, if you want to learn more about anything LR Lessons or anything Pokemon related, VGC related, and all that stuff, I'm playing with all my Christmas candy I have down here. You can check out the Discord. Link is down below. The vanity URL link does not work right now because we let some of our Discord boosters expire, so it does not currently work. But you can always check us out there. You can check us out on Twitter at LR Lessons. You can check out myself at Musical VGC. You can check out my co-host Carter, who's not here and he's asleep right now, at Mr. Missouri 25. If you're interested in supporting the podcast or the Discord or anything like that, you can find the Patreon link in the description down below. For as little as, I believe we have it set up at $2, you can get a special Discord role, ranging up to $25, where you can get a free 30-minute session with Carter or myself doing kind of whatever you really want to do. I know Carter recently did a session with one of the members, and they really enjoyed it. They were so excited that I woke up to like 15 messages from them just gushing about how happy they were with the whole setup. So if that's not a reason to go to Patreon and check that out, then I don't know what else is. Outside of all that, hope you all have a wonderful week. We will be hosting our second Rumble Sunday, January 22nd. Is that a Sunday? I don't remember.
That is a Sunday.
Okay, cool. I'm about to say I thought it was the 22nd. But we are currently looking at doing Series 1 still. I know everyone's on the Series 2 hype train going into Orlando, but we did say that we were going to play on the current Series format no matter what, so we're going to stick by that ruling. You'll be able to find the Limitless link down in the description below and on our Twitter and probably in the Discord as well. Any passing final words you guys want to say before we head out of here?
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate both of you coming on and hanging out with me for 2 hours.
Of course.
To say, because I did not know what I was going to do when Carter said that he was going to be in bed by like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm not going to be home till 9 or 10, so...
I mean, at this point, you might as well, like, I think this is my 3rd month in a row I've been on the show.
At some point, yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna just, I think, like, after, like, my 6th or 7th appearance, I'm just gonna put, like, filling co-host for Littleroot Lessons in my Twitter profile or something.
Nah, you just write guest star on Littleroot Lessons. Just put it in your Twitter
I'm
post.
always a star.
Yep. There goes the ego. There goes the neighborhood. But that's a wrap on episode 150, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.